by flooding the market with cars, hurting the domestic auto market, and taking jobs. But the country's producing more vehicles than its slowing economy can absorb.
They are not slowing down production at all of the plants in China, even though the economy in China has slowed down. So as a result, they have excess supply. The Chinese have closed the quality gap with established automakers. So for a local Brazilian, while the Chinese vehicle may not be as nice as the local Toyota vehicle for sale, they will likely go for that Chinese vehicle if the payment fits their budget.
There was a recent CNBC video about Chinese EVs expansion, which has incredible bias and double standard, and even ignorance. Let's take a look at this. It is so disappointing to see CNBC, which used to be a notable news source, to have production like this.
In 2021, Ford shut down its Brazilian factory, citing financial pressure. In 2019 alone, the company lost over $700 million in South America.
Shares of Ford moving higher as the company is announcing it is restructuring its operations in South America. That will include shutting down a manufacturing plant in Brazil.
As other automakers have pulled back, Chinese companies have seized an opportunity. Currently, at least 4 Chinese auto brands sell or manufacture in Brazil, including Great Wall Motor, Chery, Zeekr, and GAC. Then, in 2023, it purchased the closed Ford factory, with plans to produce EVs. The plant covers 4.6 million square meters, about 645 soccer fields. It's one of the biggest EV factories in Latin America, and the company says it will eventually produce 300,000 cars in a year.
In this video, CNBC reported that Ford shut down its plant, and Chinese automakers are opening plants in Brazil. However, CNBC's conclusion is that Chinese automakers are hurting job market in Brazil. What kind of logic is this?
But the country's producing more vehicles than its slowing economy can absorb.
They are not slowing down production at all of the plants in China, even though the economy in China has slowed down. So as a result, they have excess supply.
According to this CNBC video, when a country's production is not for its domestic use, but for exporting to other countries, it is called oversupply or excess supply. If this is the case, forget about cars. Anything produced for exports should be called oversupply, right? Shall we abandon the word export and use the word oversupply instead? Now, let's look at the percentage of export on the total auto production for major countries. The UK exported 77% of its total production. Germany exported 75%, Korea exported 67%, Japan exported 50%, China exported 19%, and US exported 15%. For decades, Germany, Japan, and US have been exporting, or shall we say oversupplying, huge number of cars to the world. But for these countries, we only heard words like superior technical capabilities or global competitiveness, not oversupply. Regarding the conclusion that China's economy is slowing down, let's look at the GDP growth rate for 2024. China has by far the highest GDP growth rate among these countries. Let's list the export ratio of cars side by side with the GDP growth rate. UK, 77% export ratio and 0.8% GDP growth rate. Germany, 75% export ratio and 0.2% GDP growth rate. Korea, 67% export ratio and 2.5% GDP growth rate. Japan, 50% export ratio and 0.9% GDP growth rate. China, 19% export ratio and 5.0% GDP growth rate. United States, 15% export ratio and 2.8% GDP growth rate. Among these countries, China has the highest GDP growth rate of 5% and the second lowest export ratio of 19%. Other countries have much slower growth rate and, except US, much higher export ratio. So, Why did CNBC conclude that China has oversupply and a slow economy? Such blatant disregard for facts and such intentional double standards are truly incredible. Now let's talk about quality. Chinese cars close the quality gap with established automakers. Chinese cars are not as nice as Toyota. Are you sure?
The Chinese have closed the quality gap with established automakers, so for a local Brazilian, while the Chinese vehicle may not be as nice as the local Toyota vehicle for sale, they will likely go for that Chinese vehicle if the payment fits their budget.
Next, let's listen to a real expert, Jim Farley, Chief Executive Officer of Ford.
It's the most humbling thing I've ever seen. 70% of all EVs in the world, electric vehicles, are made in China. They have far superior in-vehicle technology. Huawei and Xiaomi are in every car. They have facial recognition.
Cell phone technology.
Yes.
Connected to their cell phone system.
Yes, you get in, you don't have to pair your phone. Automatically, your whole digital life is mirrored in the car. You have an AI companion that you can talk to ChatGPT equivalent in China to all the automatic payment is already there. You can buy movie tickets. It has facial recognition, so it knows who's in which seat and which media you like.
Wait, why don't Ford cars have that? Would you need to deal with Apple or?
Yeah, because Google and Apple decided not to go in the car business. And even beyond that, their cost, their quality of their vehicles is far superior to what I see in the West. I mean, we are in a global competition with China, and it's not just EVs. And if we lose this, we do not have a future, Ford.
Finally, let's look at some of the so-called not-so-nice Chinese EVs. Let us know what you think in the comments.